Howdy friends, we're going to talk about Git today, do a little intro and get you started, get you looking at what Git is, what it does for you, and how we're going to use it moving forward. So the first thing I'm going to do is you don't actually need to do this step because we've got some cool links we're going to use in some integrations here, but I'm going to make a new repository. Now a repository is just a folder, that's all it is. It's a folder that the Git source control tool tracks here. So let's just do CIS 1500 summer 2022. Okay, so this will actually be the course repository that all of my code goes into and that you folks can go and look at online. Attaching Java files to Desire to Learn is dumb. It's not how you deal with code, and then you guys can't really use it, and it's really annoying. So I'm going to put it all in Git because Git is made for managing source code, or code here. Now a couple things, when you have a repository, README files are really helpful. They're just tell you about a repository. The Git Ignore is super important. So languages like Java that will compile your code and generate some sort of output that then is read, it's not code, right? It's a kind of code, but you can generate it. So if you can generate it, you don't need to add it to source control. Source control is supposed to manage your source code, not the stuff that gets generated from it here. So in my Git Ignore, I'm going to find the Java template, and we'll look at this in a minute, and it says don't add a bunch of files to Git. Right, to just keep it cleaner. It works out really well. And I'm going to license mine. I like the MIT open license. It's nice and easy. It goes pretty well here. So I'll make this repository. So all this is a folder. Now right now there's a Git Ignore file, there's a license file, and a README file. The README file is just a markdown file that has, right here, the name of the repository. I can add other stuff here if I want. I might at some point, but probably not here. The license file says, okay, here's what the license is. This is our MIT license, sure, right? Free to use. Right, distribute, license, whatever, as long as you have this copyright notice and permission to be included in all copies and substantial portions of the software. Sure, it's a nice easy one. So it's an easy license here. Okay, and then .git ignore says, hey, if your files look like this, .class, .log, .ctxt, any of these other things here, don't add them because they don't need to be added to the source control tool. That's all those files are. So I'm going to click on this code button here and say open with Github Desktop. If you previously installed and logged in with GitHub here, this will work for you. If you haven't yet, it'll take you to the, hey, please go download this thing here. Now, defaults are really helpful and handy. So the default is your Documents GitHub folder here. Great. If you want to put it somewhere else, go for it. It really doesn't matter. You just need to know where it is here. So it's going to take this folder online in the cloud and make a copy of it locally. So great. I'm going to say clone. And then it's going to make a copy of that folder, and we're off to the races. If you ever forget where it is, you have two awesome buttons here. You have the Show and Explorer, and you have the View on GitHub. Show and Explorer just opens up a File Explorer window, and you can see the folder. Now notice there's also a .git folder. This is a hidden folder. You might not see it by default unless you change your view options here under the hidden files here, hidden items. It's okay if you don't see it. Just never touch the folder. That's where all the Git magic happens. But you can see all the other files. Now, if I come in here and I want to make a new file, I just make like a text file here. We'll call this test.txt, and we'll open it up and write something here. We'll say hello world or something. Hello world. And I'll save it and close. Now, if I come back to my GitHub Desktop client, remember Git is a glorified file watcher. It watches this folder for files to change. So it says, oh, hey, there's a change here now. This file, test.txt, was added. The green plus means added. Now what we do is Git will take a snapshot or a commit. A snapshot is just the, what does this folder look like at this point in time? So I'm going to make a commit here and take that snapshot. We'll say, here's test.txt. Now you have to give it a commit message, and then we can commit. The commit messages, different organizations have different standards around what should be in it. I don't care. You can see these messages online. So it's nice to have them be meaningful, but for our purposes, it only has to be meaningful for you. Now that I've made that snapshot, my local repository has it here, but the cloud, the origin, does not. So Git goes through this process of pushing and pulling. So you push changes to the cloud, or you pull changes from the cloud down. Now for us, we're probably ever going to push. But when you collaborate and work with multiple people, and there's multiple changes happening that not just you did, you'll have to pull those changes down to synchronize from the cloud to your computer. So it's a push and pull process. So I'm going to say push origin. It's going to think for a second here. And then I can click my View on GitHub button. And we'll launch the Git website again here. And now I can see there's a new file. Now, you can actually look at files right on the website. And this is my favorite part about it here. So I can open it up. I can see it says hello world. I can see the contents of the file, and there's a URL here I can even grab, copy, and paste and send, and you can send these links around. And that's actually what you're going to do. When you turn in code, aside from this first introduction lab here, you're going to be committing stuff to GitHub and giving me the URL. Because Desire to Learn is not meant for sharing code. Git and GitHub are meant for sharing code. That's what we actually do out in the industry. So I want you folks to get at least a little taste of using it here. Again, we're not doing all the cool things, using all the bells and whistles, but that's okay. We're at least going to get started here and scratch the surface. So the other really cool thing is GitHub makes money by selling this service to organizations. So once you get your code in github.com, if you can see it in github.com, I'll be able to see it in github.com, and it's really, really, really unlikely they're ever going to lose it. So if you are committing and pushing your work out to the cloud, you will always have that copy no matter what happens to your computer, which is great. So I like, and commits are free. I mean, sure, they use like a little bit of electricity, but there's no charge that we get charged per commit. So if you want to make like one line of code and make a commit, make another line of code, make a commit, make another line of code and make a commit, fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. So what I'm going to do, now that I have that folder, I'm going to go back to IntelliJ, and I'm going to make a project inside of that folder. So I know it's in my Documents, GitHub, CIS 1500, Summer 2022 folder. That's where I'm going to put this this new project. So I'll come back to IntelliJ, and we don't need our Hello World project here. It always loads up your last project, but that's okay. I'm just going to go and start a new one. Come on. Come on. So we're going to go to File, New Project. Yes, tip of the day, thank you. File, New Project. And I want a new project, so I don't want to put it in Idea Projects. I want to change the location of it here. So I'm going to go change the location. I'm going to find my users folder here. So C users, I'm going to find Eric C. I'm going to find my documents folder, and then I'm going to find GitHub, and then I'm going to find my repository folder. So 1500 Summer 2022. There we go. There's the folder I want to put it in here. So now it's in the right location. So it's going to make all of the Java files and project files that it needs in this folder. And if something happens in this folder, my GitHub client will track it and say, hey, something new happened. So we'll call this one Hello World as the project name here, and say it's going to make it in a folder, which is really nice. So we can have a folder inside the repository to keep things clean. The JDK 18 is already downloaded. We should be good to go. And now you can either put it in a new window and you'll have IntelliJ open twice, or this window where you have IntelliJ open once. I prefer to have it open once. If you want to have it open twice, perfectly fine, but it just slows my laptop down. All right, so it's thinking about it here for a second, and then we can open up our project, go to source, right click, we want to add a new Java file. The better thing to do here is to add a package. So a package is really just a folder. There's reasons here. We're not going to really get into them yet, so we'll just say hello world. Now, packages have no spaces and all lowercase. It's just a convention. I don't care too much about it, but people will look at you funny if you don't do it. Now I'm going to put a Java class inside that package. We'll call this one hello world. So now we can do capital letters, no spaces still. And we do this thing called, yeah, sure, add to Git. Don't ask me again, just cancel. That doesn't matter. It tries to be helpful and says, hey, I notice you're in a Git repository. Do you want to do something with it? We don't really care. All right, let me zoom that in. So now we have the hello world package, hello world.java file. And again in here, PSVM for public static void main. Tab will autocomplete and fill that in for you, or you can just copy paste it here. And then SOUT or system.out.println, quote, hello world. Hello world. I'm going to save, right click run, or come over here and hit run. We'll make sure it runs. Everything's up and running. And then what we're going to see is, oh, experimental feature alert. Sure, that sounds like fun. I accept that. Why not? Is in the GitHub client, we're going to see a bunch of files changed. Anything in this .idea folder is a file used by IntelliJ. Just leave it alone. If it changes, it changes. Great, no big deal here. We don't really care. What we do care about is the Java file. So we see hello world.java. And notice it's in a source folder. So source is a folder. Hello world is a package. It's just a folder. And then we have hello world.java. We can see all of our code here. And Git says, here's all the new stuff that was added. Great, so we can have hello world. We can make that snapshot, that commit, say here's what the folder looks like at this point in time, and push. And then when we come back to our website here, I'm just going to come and refresh because I already have it open here. Or you could click that link again. We have the Hello World folder was made. Inside that folder, we have the source Hello World package. You can click on that one, and we can see hello world.java, and you can see all the Java code. So all the examples we do in class are going to be out here in the repository for you to go look at anytime you want to reference. From here, you can copy paste. Sure, have a lot of fun with it. Notice it also has this line about package hello world. We'll get into that later. Don't worry about it too much right now. Haven't really talked a lot about Intro to Java yet, but want to get you up and running with the tools first. So we use Git, the source control tool, hosted by github.com as our cloud provider of the Git source control tool to have all of our code. So all my code will go out here, and then when you start working on assignments, aside from this very first starter lab, we'll start using Git as well, and I'll walk you through it. So we'll be doing this throughout the class as we go. All of our code will go in Git, get synchronized to github.com, and then if you can see it on github.com, I can see it on github.com, and then I can actually grade it for you. So no code will ever actually make it into D2L aside from this very first lab, which I'm already feeling bad about, but this way everyone can see it here, and it's fine for our very first lab. And we're going to go from there. So that's a Git in a nutshell. It's just a glorified file watcher. You make commits, those snapshots, that point in time, and then we synchronize with the cloud. All right, folks, we'll see you next video.